Hi, this is John Hall. This week, it's a never before broadcast episode of the All About Beer podcast, recorded during the Craft Brewers Conference in Philadelphia earlier this year. I'll let Don and Em fill you in, but I'll remind you that All About Beer has its own podcast channel. Search and subscribe where you download shows, and you'll get access to the All About Beer podcast, One Iconic Beer, and Brewer to Brewer. Be sure to check out allaboutbeer.com for the latest articles, to subscribe to our newsletter, and to find links for our social media. And as always, if you want to reach out with questions, guest suggestions, or anything else, I'm on email at johnhall@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL at allaboutbeer.com. I'll be back next week with a fresh conversation. But for now, here's Em and Don with a bonus episode of the All About Beer podcast recorded live at Human Robot.
I am Don Tess, better known as the Don of Beer.
And I am Em Sauter, better known as Pints and Panels, full of Icebox, baby.
Welcome to a bonus episode of the All About Beer podcast. Every episode, we talk with leading experts and take a deep dive into one topic in beer. And this is a very extra special episode because it is being recorded live. In front of an audience at Human Robot Brewing in Philadelphia at Craft Brewers Conference 2026. This episode, we are going to talk about innovation in beer. We've got a great panel.
We have a great
It's going to be
panel.
super exciting.
Super.
But first, please, everybody, visit allaboutbeer.com. Follow us on social media at allaboutbeer. And please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to support this show and others. So, Em,
Yes.
what is your favorite recent innovation in beer?
I quibble with this. I've been really into the word quibble lately. It's a great word, by the way.
Quibble?
Quibble.
Reminds me of-
Yeah, that's the Icebox talking. No, I'm fine. Everything's great. What the thing I want to know is, and it's something that we need to discuss, is recent innovation. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Well, I think there's innovations in beer styles. I think there's innovations in ingredients.
Yeah.
Maybe even process. I don't
Marketing.
know.
Marketing.
Marketing.
Actually, I think so. Right now, I'm drinking Human Robot's West Coast Pilsner, and I think an innovation that's really great is that this isn't an IPL anymore. This is a West Coast Pilsner, because this is going to sell better. And I think that marketing innovation has also.
Oh, I see. You count that as
I think that's innovation. I think it's. I don't know, because I want to discuss when we have our guests on what's the difference between innovation and evolution.
Oh, that's a
getting-
good question. Let's park that one.
I'm getting philosophical
but
here.
first, we want to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors who make this episode possible.
This episode is sponsored by John I. Haas on their new LupoCore Enhanced T90 hop pellets, engineered for peak sensory performance and ultimate peace of mind. Designed for brewers of all sizes, LupoCore delivers consistent sensory outcomes, reliable brewhouse performance, and scalable application across production volumes. Using Sensory Plus selected hops and Haas's advanced pellet processing technology, LupoCore elevates hop expression while reducing brew process loss, all without requiring brewers to change their process. Contact your Haas Sales Representative or visit lupohops.com to learn more.
Today's episode is brought to you by StompStickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with StompStickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting StompStickers.com. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
If you were at CBC in Philadelphia, hopefully you stopped by the Senos booth or ran into them at their sponsored events around Philly. For everyone who missed it, Senos announced their latest hardware innovations. Senos is the world's first complete solution for data-driven fermentation management. Real-time, predictive insights directly from your tanks, within reach for every brewery. Catch issues early, save batches, and grow your margins. Brew smarter at senos.com. That's SENNOS.com.
Okay, so let's introduce our guests. We have a great panel. I'm super excited. We will start with Megan Parisi. She has been a brewer for more than 20 years, working at Cambridge Brewing, Blue Jacket, and Wormtown Brewery before joining the Sam Adams Brewing team in 2015. Megan has also been a beer judge at domestic and international competitions since 2010, as well as an invited presenter at multiple conferences. In 2011, while at Cambridge Brewing, Megan spearheaded the first known collaboration brewing featuring all women brewers called Project Venus. It brought Megan together with brewers from Stone and Victory Brewing for this groundbreaking project, which provided the inspiration for what is now the Pink Boots Society Collaboration Brew Days. She is a native of Philadelphia. Welcome home. Megan's degrees are in classical music performance, and she spent the early years of her professional life as a clarinetist in the United States Navy Band in Washington, D.C. This formative part of her education influences the way she brews, noting the marriage of science and art in the formation of recipes as well as the execution of brewing techniques. Recently, Megan has transitioned to the dark side, now working as an R&D product developer for Boston Beer's Beyond Beer portfolio, where she will bring her unique perspective to the non-beer side of the business.
Doug Veliky is a CPA leading internal audit at Reyes Holdings. He was there from 2009 to 2016. His love of craft beer led him to create his social media presence under the handle at Beer Aficionado, which you should all follow, as well as his industry Substack Beer Crunchers, which you should all subscribe to. His experience in the middle tier and content creation helped open the opportunity to join Revolution Brewing as their CFO in 2016, eventually evolving into their CMO in 2021. Last year, Doug joined Bright Bev as a partner, where he and his partner Jeff work with early-stage startup beverage founders on their route to market strategies and execution. Doug still actively creates industry content, and in late 2025, Beer Crunchers won Best Blog/Newsletter from the North American Guild of Beer Writers Awards.
Very nice. Kelly McKnight, she is our third panelist. She studied biochemistry at Harvard before transitioning into brewing. She was the head brewer at a small brew pub in Boston prior to being asked to move back to her hometown and brew for New Belgium Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado. Kelly has been brewing for New Belgium nearly 15 years, where she began as a production brewer and quickly moved into research and development, where she has been the lead innovation brewer for 10 years. She operates and manages all innovation brewing in the pilot brew house. Kelly has spent most of her time in R&D innovating future large brands ranging from 1,000 to 100,000 barrels per year on the production systems, hype collaborations, and with world-renowned breweries and brewers, custom blend beers for New Belgium's wood cellar, countless cutting-edge raw material research brews, love that part, and hundreds of specialty brews for the tap rooms. Since her time in the R&D department, Kelly has won numerous medals and awards for her innovative beers. Small batch specialty beers still remain her primary passion, though. Her work on Voodoo Ranger, Juice Force, which remains the #1 craft beer launch of all time. That was a notable achievement, and that's all thanks to Kelly, who is sitting on our panel. Very honored to have you here. So welcome to the show, Megan, Doug, and Kelly.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here.
So, as Em and I were kind of bantering about at the beginning, we need to get all on the same page. What constitutes innovation? You know, obviously beer is thousands of years old. It's evolved over the years. What is innovation? We'll just go down the panel. Start with Kelly.
What is innovation?
What does it mean to you, I guess, is maybe the better way to phrase it.
Well, it's my job.
It's your job.
What does it mean to me? It means trying to think outside the box, and like you said, beer's been around forever. So, how do you keep tapping into being creative and whatnot? And I think I'll talk about it later. And Megan down the line has definitely heard me talk about this, but basically using beer, like finished beer, as its own raw material, and innovating on top of that is kind of where I start at this point. But we'll get to that. So, anyway,
where my mind goes first has really changed over the years. For a long time it meant, what is the thing that continues building momentum, keeping your existing fan base engaged? And now with beer in the state it's in now, I've been thinking about innovation a lot more as also meaning like what is the new on-ramp for consumers that weren't part of this current run of craft beer that has evolved so much, and there's so much context to knowing and understanding a lot of what craft breweries are doing right now. What is the next way to bring in a new wave and kind of a new entry point for perhaps younger consumers?
Gosh, thinking about what innovation means, my whole concept has changed over the 20-some years that I've been in the industry. And you even mentioned the question of innovation versus evolution. Kind of hesitate to say, but truly, like, my sense has evolved of what innovation means. It used to be purely innovating with new brewing styles or techniques, thinking like that, challenging flavor expectations or production expectations, and that has grown into, I guess, more broadly thinking about looking at everything that you do with beer or flavor and removing the guardrails, not letting that hold you back, or taking off the training wheels, I guess, even more like that, being able to ride free and see where the road takes you.
So what's all of yours favorite innovation in beer in the last few years? Is it a new ingredients, new packaging, new beer style? And Megan, we'll roll back.
Kelly's answer is stovepipes.
Yeah, I like a good stovepipe. Don't knock the stovepipe. Megan, we'll start with you and go backwards.
Oof. I might actually circle back to something that Kelly mentioned, and it flies in the face of my earlier views as a cranky old brewer of we want to brew beer traditionally and only stick with the way that we know how to do things, that we're all purists and beer should be a pure, unadulterated kind of beverage and process. But the reality is, if you do look at beer as not just a finished product, but also an ingredient and a component in what you're brewing, it really opens up a whole new way of looking at flavor and experience. So even me getting over myself and those limitations and restrictions of being such a purist about what beer is and what beer means, I think that's really opened up a lot of avenues for brewers to expand on what it is that we do and brew.
On a ultra crafty side, I've really enjoyed the emergence of pouring methods at tap rooms as kind of new ways to get fans that have been around for a while new reasons to come to the tap room, get off the couch, come visit breweries, and just engage with beer in a new, ultra nerdy way from, the Czech style. We're in a great place for this. Czech style pours, Japanese sharp pours. I've seen a lot of breweries focus on this in Chicago, and it just brings a lot of new faces out and just gives them another reason to show up. On a big beer sense, I've actually really gotten a kick out of beers like Busch Light Apple, and just how introducing flavor to a beer that's been around forever, and what that did for bringing new people into the category. And it might seem strange to celebrate something like that, but the way that can be an entry point for consumers that wouldn't have grabbed beer otherwise, and then they maybe move on to a regular Busch Light, and then maybe work their way up to some of the beers that some of us nerd out over. I've just been fascinated to watch some phenomenons like that one.
Yeah, and kind of what Megan was talking about, just there's actually a really good book to read called The Dorito Effect, and it is
Oh yes,
Doritos.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was how, long story short, how somebody transformed a simple tortilla chip into being this crazy, insane thing. But really, it was looking at a tortilla chip as not the finished product, but as a raw material.
I see. This is what you
And-
were alluding to earlier.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I recommend that book. This is not an ad. But yeah, it gives you perspective on how if you kind of go just like one step further and take your beer as Megan was saying before, like, it's funny because I brew all our pilot beers and I am kind of a purist, but for large brands and whatnot, if you view finished product beer as the next step of a raw material and how to transform it, this book actually goes into using all that and doing that. So I recommend that. But yeah, beer's not done when it's done.
Yeah, that's
You can
interesting.
keep going.
Title of the podcast.
Yeah.
Beer's
yeah.
not done when it's done.
Beer's not done when it's done. I've never thought of that, so I really appreciate that.
It's like making a rad bowl of soup.
I mean,
Just
even
keep
by
going.
even by putting beer, like finished beer, into barrels, that's
Yeah.
using
of
it
course.
Exactly.
as a raw material to then, as an ingredient to then
Yep.
turn it into something else.
I guess even rattlers or whatever. I mean, this is
It's an ingredient,
Yep.
component.
Yeah.
interesting. There was a time not that long ago where beer in America meant domestic lager, adjunct lager, and innovation really was just, marketing based. Tastes great, less filling, or a can in a bow tie shape. Is innovation, we of course are all in the craft beer space, is innovation in beer fundamental to what is craft beer? Do we always have to be new and novel, on-ramping new customers, adding new flavors, or developing new styles? Is this the ethos of craft beer?
I would say for me, yeah, still it is. My biggest thing that I try to incorporate and work on every day, every week, whatever, is using like new raw materials that come from local vendors, especially in Colorado. We have a lot of resources, but I try to like delve into their raw materials and then at the same time cutting edge stuff. So part of my job is using like abstracts, as we all know, is pretty freaking cool. And just different like hop materials and innovating that way. So for me, I think, yeah, that's craft is working with all that and trying to not just make really good beer, but yeah, use like brand new cutting edge material.
Doug?
Yeah, it kind of gets to what I was saying before. Is I feel like craft beer has been telling a story for a while, and if you've been following that story from the beginning, everything that you see breweries doing makes sense because you've kind of know how we got to this point in the book. And where I think there's just this need is for how do you get people at Chapter 1, and how's Chapter 1 in 2026 different than what it maybe would have looked like in 2013? And it's a really hard needle to thread because you have this engaged consumer base and you want to keep challenging them and building their interests, but you also have to speak to a different consumer to make sure that you're always bringing new people into the building. And so that's just like the thing that gets me most excited is when I see, opportunities that kind of figure out a way to do both, to, release something that makes sense for your, fans that have been there for a while, but also are a perfect jumping off point for someone who had never heard of you before.
Yeah. And before Megan answers, I'm going to, I guess, hijack your answer and maybe direct it. Now that you've joined the quote unquote dark side, as the phrase used, and I know you meant that jokingly. But as you're doing non-beer, is it just that you're wanting to do non-beer, or do you, as a former brewer and a beer lover, see one of your jobs in innovating in non-beer to direct people towards the beer?
Well,
To Doug's
absolutely.
point.
Yeah, to Doug's point. I mean, flavor is flavor. What we're trying to achieve and accomplish is an experience. It's something that that people want to drink. Bringing familiar flavors, bringing experiences to people, and that's certain through the beverage, but also just in the rest of the business as well too. You think about talking about the social media aspect and all these things, but with the beverages itself. Reaching people, through flavor, through communication, getting something that speaks to them, and hoping that people aren't necessarily bound to any one thing. We've seen a really big shift in consumer tastes and preferences the past several years, and those shifts keep happening even more rapidly, whether they're going from, seltzer to tea to vodka sodas or things like that. Whatever it is, we're seeing a lot of shift. So if we can, connect with people on flavor, hopefully we can drive them within the same family.
Well, that speaks to our next question. So, like, as experienced, people in the industry, how do you look at innovation? Like, do you balance the desire to try new things against the risk of ruining what you've already done? And then I guess the second question is, like, the cyclical nature of beer. Where a lot of people are brewing these, like, Czech beers, and they're kind of putting a modern innovation on them, or, English styles or whatnot. Do you think the cyclical nature of beer is actually innovation? Like, do you think the new ways of brewing old styles counts as innovation? Or is that, this is my innovation versus evolution statement that I want to kind of explore? I feel like Kelly's like itching.
Well, okay, I ruined
Or you're going to
fat
tell me I'm
tire.
full of it.
Sorry. That's like the number one question I get. Why did
Sure,
we
that's
change
fine.
the recipe? My dad called me like the morning of when it got printed in the newspaper. My parents were like, "You've done the worst thing on the planet." But the reason we changed that
He's not wrong,
recipe,
young
hey, young people buy it, so that's part of the answer. But the reason we changed it was shelf stability and using and switching up. Like, there's crystal malt in there. I mean, like,
Oxidative.
yes. So there's a shelf life with fat tire,
I love
and
crystal
only
malt.
old people buy it. So
And
Oh,
33, like they're 43-year-olds named
well, I
Em
asked
Sauter.
my dad when he said you
That's
just
old
made the
people.
worst mistake of your life. Why'd you do that? And I was like, when's the last time you bought one? And he was like, 20 years ago. And I'm like, exactly.
I don't buy it.
dude.
It's free from you. No.
So you have to be adaptive. It was definitely a big discussion. But long story short, we did also just rebrew with Jeff Liebisch, our co-founder, the OG, because it's our 35th year anniversary. That will be going
Congratulations.
out, and this is just a factoid. But yeah, we changed it because you have to adapt. Okay, and so everyone, I get all the time. I don't know what breweries y'all work at, but it's like, why don't you make Blue Paddle anymore? Why don't you make Sunshine anymore? Why don't you make Abbey? I do in the pilot, but I make small batches, and the reason we don't is nobody buys it. So, yeah, I can make the OG recipes and put out 10 hectoliter batches of it or 20 hectoliter batches, but everybody knows if nobody's buying your shit, you can't continue to keep it as a legacy brand or whatever. So we switched up Fat Tire really for oxidation purposes was the main thing. We spun it, and it was also true as like an environmental thing, because like using crystal malt or less crystal malt or whatnot, has a less carbon footprint. And New Belgium
because
is
of
all
the
about
kilning.
stewardship. That's really true.
Oh,
We
okay.
weren't just
Interesting.
being total bullshitters about that. But then also lightening it up. Yeah, I'll be at like the movie theater in Fort Collins and young people buy it. It's crazy. Because I've never been around that before. So yeah, as far as adapting, you have to really go after newer markets. And we all know everybody right now likes juicy flavor bombs, and that's not what we're used to. And I'm not saying that Fat Tire is that, but it was also adapting to the new consumers, and it also had like tertiary purposes and stuff like that.
I know Doug has thoughts about this
Doug!
because he
Yeah,
posted about it.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to say what you, but anyway. On the other side of the spectrum is the juicy flavor bombs. I think there's an interesting opportunity right now with the to connect the dots between broader trends around moderation and kind of looking at breweries' back catalog and styles like Czech lagers, styles like an English mild, and a way to connect them into what's happening with moderation and seeing, why is dry January tapering off? Is it because people are being more mindful year round? Therefore, there's less of a need for, what we've seen the last few years or last decade of dry January. And it really doesn't have to affect much of what you're brewing, but the innovation, if you will, is more so how you're talking about it and how you're presenting it. A beer bar right down the street from me, the Beer Temple in Chicago, did a collaboration with Machine House Brewing in Seattle and Forest and Maine, not too far from here. And they did a whole month-long kind of celebration of English mild and did Mild Madness. And they had a contest of who could sell the most milds for the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament games. And all three places sold like record-breaking amounts of mild. It was like in 3 days they sold 1,500 pints of mild, something like that, between the three. Numbers that none of them had ever done before, by taking a something that's always been there and attaching it to a mainstream thing that everybody gets somewhat behind or fills out a bracket, the NCAA tournament, and turns it into a game. They had a live scoreboard where every bartender at every place would update every time they'd sell one, they'd update it so you could see the live scoreboard at every place. They had other aspects. You could get a mild card if you bought 10 milds over the course of the weekend. You got half off milds the rest of the year at the locations. So they made it fun, and they took and they just rallied around this idea of moderation, but used a style that they've all already been celebrating, but made it fun, made it a little wider reaching. And then you have all these people in there drinking mild who never would have ordered a mild otherwise, but are like, I'm down, let's do it.
That's more mild sold than in the rest of the country put together.
Exactly.
Megan.
Two things I wanted to say. I think, as we're going on all this, first thing, when we opened up the Sam Adams Innovation Tap Room in downtown Boston in 2020, I kind of joked at the time that after the haze craze that we'd been in for a lot of the late 2010s, brewing traditional styles to style was kind of innovative at that point. Because that had kind of gotten lost as far as what people were doing and what people were looking forward to. But also thinking about Kelly and re-engineering a core brand, how people respond to innovation, and that was a very polarizing thing. A few years ago, we released the Sam Adams Boston Lager remastered, but the only difference in the beer was we had done a lot of research and trials and innovation on how we were going to make pH adjustments. We developed an internal biological acidification process. So we were using
sour good.
Yes. So
nice.
we developed. We have our own bioacid, lacto based water treatment. That's what we use instead of brewing salts. That was the extent of it.
Oh.
And people freaked out that you changed our Boston Lager. All it did was that using that lactic acid instead of brewing salts, use calcium chloride or something to adjust your pH, is a very simple change as far as as to it. We're not changing the base recipe, but we felt it made a slightly softer profile. But the response to it was people thought it was it may have been, even though it wasn't taste profile, a huge adjustment. It was something that we wanted to do, thinking of innovative, actually going back to very old German brewing traditions. Like this was not news. Going, to any brewer in Germany, like, biological acidification. Yeah, cool story, bro. We do that. But here in America, this huge innovation was you messed up our beer, because it was not understood what this innovation meant, and they thought it was going to be much more dramatic. So, to Doug's point about how you communicate things and how people understand something can be also very effective.
But then if it's so subtle, then why say anything? Maybe innovation doesn't have to, maybe saying the quiet part out loud is, but I mean, I'm not you guys, so I'm just trying for more.
Because someone would notice, and then you would get.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm reminded of a story.
people.
Apparently, Dairy Milk, in Cadbury in the UK, they reshaped their bar so the corners were more rounded, and other than that, that's the only thing they did. And they got all kinds of complaints from customers that the chocolate was no longer as sweet as it used to be. Why did you take out so much sugar? Blah blah blah. Like, people are funny sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think New Belgium's pretty crystal clear on what we're doing, so I don't want to be we don't want to be shady, and we're pretty open to communication.
Yeah, and same with us too. And there was something about, honestly, kind of felt a real brewer's pride about doing this, about doing a couple of years of development and research to make this ultimately minor change that
It's kind of a beer nerd change.
it was a very big beer nerd change, and we're still pretty big beer nerds at Boston Beer. We're still really proud of that sort of thing. It felt like such a beer nerd accomplishment that it was how many other people are doing it. There's only a few other breweries in the US that were doing that at that time on a regular basis. So
yeah,
it felt
you weren't
like
cutting
some
corners.
cred.
You were just trying to be more legit.
We did not do it because it was easy.
Right. My next question, it might be more for Megan and Kelly, but Doug, of course, if you have thoughts, happy to hear them. How do you decide what you're going to pursue? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you get sales reps calling all the time with, here's our new innovative, instead of T90s, we have T89 pellets for you. You should try them out. Or NA is a big trend, or Czech lager is a big trend. What do you decide is worth your attention, and then what do you decide that it's worth continued attention versus how do you say, no, that's not for us. We tried it. It's not going to work.
You want to go first?
I can.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
What I'm going to say might be better going last, but I'll do it anyway. What I spend like a lot of my professional days doing right now is helping brand new founders make sure that their product is solving a problem for their distributors, because we're working with folks who are selling through distribution, and a lot of times they have the idea, but the way they're talking about it is going to get a reaction of, well, that's great, like you're going into a hot market, but I already have 10 things just like it. And they have a well-differentiated proposition, but they're not explaining it that way. And so making sure that whatever it is, whether you're an existing brewery and you're launching something new for the coming year, making sure you're thinking about like, how does this fit into my distributor's portfolio? Because if they're not behind it, if they don't get it, if it's going to lose the game of telephone once this transfers down from the top dogs to the feet on the street, if the message is going to get lost and nobody's going to understand it, nobody's going to sell it. And so that's the biggest thing I've been coaching a lot of folks on right now, is just make sure you're solving a problem for your distributors, of course for your customers and your retailers, but if you lose the distributors, it never really has a chance. So that just requires thinking through what the competitive landscape is in general, as well as with your distribution partners, and making sure the way you're talking about it is done so in a way that they can understand where the value is, who the customer is, and how to explain this to their retailers, their customers.
A huge part of this is, what you're saying is storytelling, not telling stories, but how do you communicate, the right message to people? So it's even, targeting the messaging, to the right groups, because not everyone's going to care about every aspect. So you got to knowing your audience, knowing what it is that they care about, and not just telling them what they want to hear, but telling them the parts that are of interest to them. If they're not going to care about XYZ, don't tell them XYZ. Don't focus on that. But how do you framing it in the ways that they're going to recognize something that's going to actually speak to them?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm in a unique position because I feel like I have no boundaries, right? So in my position, it's just make cool beers with cool people. It sounds like a popularity contest, but like with Natalie and Ashley at Bierstadt and Wayfinder, we just made a beer, and it was not a groundbreaking innovation. All we did was make a Mexican rice lager, but I used their information, and we all came together and we made a Mexican lager. I don't filter anything in the pilot, so for them that was new to them, but I used the Modelo strain. We put jasmine rice, whatever. We just made a really cool beer. So I have the freedom to do that kind of stuff. or crazy beers with 5 billion things in it. So I think where I'm at with innovation is like, my job is just to make beers that are really good for our tap rooms. And then if it hits, then we reverse engineer everything and go from there, right? And work on making things scalable. So of course it's going to change. But within that context, I have no bounds. And that's pretty sweet. So for me, I guess your question was what? How do
you decide what to pursue? But you
Yeah.
get to pursue anything you want.
Luckily, that's very cool. And so it's because I'm not using my friends to make beer, but working with great other innovators and working with amazing ingredients and just kind of, as our COO says, throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. So that's kind of where I'm at. Very fortunate for that. And yeah, I mean, I might make the boring Hefeweizen or something, but to some people, that's like new to a different group. So the way, as kind of Megan alluded to, the way you market it and the way you tell the story has a lot to do with how you get it out there and who's interested in it. So
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm very symbiotic with marketing. It's no secret. So yeah, good beer, but also good marketing really does the trick.
Thinking about the marketing part, at our innovation tap room, while I was there, I had an amazing marketing partner who was dedicated just to the tap room, and Tanya and I. That's where I really learned just how powerful.
Our Tanya?
No, Tanya Barrios.
Oh, okay.
She's now out in LA working back in non-beer marketing. So shout out to Tanya, but she was just a phenomenal partner in understanding how to tell stories. We were of totally different generations, totally different backgrounds, different relationships to beer, even overall, but how she could tell a story, to think about reaching different customer groups, to relate these beers and the experiences that we were that we were providing and presenting to people was such a huge asset and boon for this taproom experience, that a lot of people are going to see our location there and think, oh, Sam Adams Tap Room, they're just in a big tourist area. It's just a big, tourist place. But yes, granted, every tourist in Boston walks by our front door because the Freedom Trail goes right outside it. Yes, that's going to happen. But how do you make people actually, stop there and stay and then come back, and locals? And we really, in partnership, built that by looking at what people are drinking, what they're buying, what are they buying again, who are the people that are coming in? How do we create a community? And just even, innovating in that way to try to present, an older brand, like Sam Adams, as a place that is, welcoming and interesting for many generations.
A few years ago, there we go. Craft beer drinkers were always pursuing the new hops, new stuff, new styles, new things to check in on Untapped. I think we've kind of are past that. And I was wondering if you guys, with beer prices going up, are customers hesitant and tired of innovation? Or am I not seeing it? Are they still looking for new? Are they still looking for next? How does customer play into innovation? Who wants to start? I feel like Doug. I feel like I'm staring at you.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things I see a lot is, it's not that the desire for new isn't still there, but it's once they're already there. So the bigger challenge is, finding new ways to get people to come in. And that's where it's just been so much more, so important lately to find new ways to bring people in. We're seeing more trivia nights than ever, more partnerships with local organizations, sports teams, from the, top professional ones to ultimate frisbee leagues, but all these things that just bring small communities in. And then, we found a lot of success when I was at Revolution, using our pilot system talking about some of the types of beers Kelly makes, but saying like, okay, we have this group that comes in after their ultimate Frisbee games. Why not invite them to come back one day and brew a 1 or 2 barrel batch with us? Let them pick the style. We'll help them design the recipe. Turn it into an educational moment. 20 folks come in. Then they tell their fans, the 1,000 people that support them, hey, you should come out to Revolution and try this new Ultimate Frisbee, this beer collab we're doing. Then all of a sudden you've got people say, well, that's cool. And then you do all the photos and you get kind of social content to have fun with it. And then all of a sudden you've got people that just have this like stronger connection, this new reason to come in. And they of course want to try what's new because it's this beer that kind of connects to their interest. Using Ultimate Frisbee as a fun example, it could be anything. Have done that with nonprofits, like had run some nonprofit events to fundraisers, and then it's like, well, why not invite them to come brew a beer with us? Let them pick, work together on the name and the style and all that. And sometimes just letting the beer, the style of beer isn't all that important. It's like who you made it with and the connections they can that they have and would want to use your awesome tap room to come. Just give them a reason to come celebrate.
Yeah, there's been a big shift in what we've seen from traditional pub culture of us going out, having beer, sitting at the bar and talking with each other, which I'll be honest, that's my preference. I love sitting at a bar. Love sitting at a bar, talking to people, talking to the bartenders, talking to whoever's next to me, enjoying that, enjoying the beverage. But even at that, there's something about that experience that is just as good as having the great beer. It's just that we're seeing a shift in the experiences that that consumers are looking for right now. And so creating those experiences that encourage people to stay longer, at your breweries. And then by that, the longer they stay, whether it's for trivia night, whatever kind of events, they stay and they will try more of your beers and try more of the either classic styles or experiment with some of the more unusual and perhaps boundary pushing styles. If you create the environment and the experience, you can kind of engage the consumer in a different way to maybe even grow outside their comfort zone.
Kelly, anything to add?
Yeah, I think Megan's right. I mean, I guess we all maybe know that like the younger drinkers are really hyper-focused on authenticity. So, having like connection to the community and whatnot it allows people to stick around a little bit more. We have an interesting thing at all of our New Belgium tap rooms. We shut down earlier than all the bars stay open because we don't want to piss off our local bars. We're just being courteous. But so that's why I like the beers I make in the tap room that focus on connecting to the community and also being awesome collabs with fun people, but really being more authentic. We find like that drives more people in during those times, and then we shut down a little bit earlier so everyone can go then enjoy the other bars in town. So we do pay a lot of attention to what's happening like specifically to our local communities. But like right now we know, like I said, there's less drinking going on. So how do you get people to hang out and drink beer? That's kind of the big question on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
And ours. Yep.
Okay. Final question. I'm going to ask you all, here we are, April 21, 2026. Take a look into your crystal ball. What's an innovation you are seeing the beginnings of that you're really excited about for the future? And everybody's pointing at Doug to go first.
He's an analyst. Let's hear what he's got to say first.
Because I don't have time to think too much, I'm going to go with my favorite new one, and I'll give a little more context around it. So I made an Instagram post at the beginning of January that pickle was going to be, the new flavor of 2026. And most people said, not that I was wrong, but like that's been happening for a while. That's been around. Craft breweries have been doing pickle beers. I think Urban Artifact in Cincinnati. Brewery in Dallas has had one for years. And it was like, but this is like connecting to a bigger flavor trend that has happened since all that. And those I would call pretty heavy-handed pickle beers, where it was kind of what I'd call the craft beer way, like getting extreme with the pickle.
100 IBU
And,
pickle
yeah,
beer.
exactly. And it's like, that's not what I think's going next. And then sure enough, by luck, Pabst just released a pickle collab with Grillo's. Busch Light pickle is coming out this summer. Sorry for another Busch Light reference. But just the idea of like taking some of these things that craft breweries have done in the past, but maybe be less heavy-handed with them, go a little more subtle on what it can be, and maybe that can connect to what I've talked about a few times, is like be more of that entry point for consumers instead of being extreme, but be the more like
10 IBUs pickle beer.
wider reaching version of it. So I'm saying maybe it's pickle beer is the wrong way to think about it, but it's actually like a ready to drink beer in a spear, which is the Midwest term for opening a beer and dropping a pickle spear in it. That's like a thing. So maybe it's actually more of a ready to drink.
Kids these days.
And back to positioning, maybe if you position it that way, maybe everybody's like, okay, I like that. We've done pickle beer, but ready to drink beer in a spear. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Megan, thoughts?
I'm actually thinking that my favorite road snack is Flamin' Hot Cheetos if I'm on a long drive, and I just saw dill pickle Flamin' Hot Cheetos. So the pickle thing is definitely here for now. But also looking at that, how long are these things going to last? And right now, you look at I kind of look at it. I look at these trends and flavors through non-beer lenses too, actually, because I'm looking at things like we're looking at the tea industry right now. Because we make a lot of tea beverages at Boston Beer, and I just went to a tea expo, the World Tea Expo, just to kind of learn more about the ingredient. And what did we see? It was so much matcha. But if you look at matcha, this matcha is having its moment. By next year, it'll be gone. As far as a major thing. So what is the next thing? I think that the next kind of one of the next big waves really is the functional. That functional side of things. Everyone's looking to feel a little better about what we do, especially when we're drinking, and we've been maybe not taking the best care of our bodies all the time with that. I mean, I still love it. I feel like it's actually self-care, but still, we always look to do a little better, and that seems to be like kind of one of the next ways and next waves of where things are going. I don't know how that really plays out within beer, because you can't make those kinds of claims, but there are certainly lots of better for you than not, types of ingredients that also taste good, that could be used, that again, can't make claims, but if you can make things that taste good, that you may perceive some added value or benefit from.
So you guys all heard it here first. The next Sam Adams Flaming Hot Cheetos Pickle Lion's Mane Lager is the next beer.
Done.
Kelly, final thoughts.
I mean, it's no secret that you can just look up the 2027 Whole Foods catalog for hot trending flavors and go in and just copy that. That's not what we do at all, ever. But yeah, healthy stuff, and then brewers have been saying for 5 years like clean lagers are coming back, but I think they truly are. So clean lagers with a facade of health. It's kind of where
better for
it's
you.
what I'm going to be making. I'm brewing a beer with Maui. We're going to make it 3.5% porch pounder with coconut water. So
nice.
We're just going for it.
And pickle juice.
No shame. No pickle juice.
No pickles. Okay.
Just straight up fun.
Is low ABV a pseudo function?
Shout out to the Oregon brewers over there.
Yes.
They're healthy.
Before we let you go, please, if you want to share social media handles, let us know. We'll start with you, Kelly, and then Doug and Megan.
Social media, Foco Brewer. That's my Instagram. Is that what we're supposed to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beer aficionado on Instagram and TikTok.
I'm boring. Megan.Parisi.
That was damn boring.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
So, Em, what did you think of that? Are you excited for beer again?
I mean,
Because you were bored of it.
I was never bored. Stop. Don't do that, Don. No, I mean, it's one, we had 3 really you guys, I mean, you're sitting here and I'm not blowing smoke. Like, this is some of the best of the best.
Do it.
And I really enjoy like learning from the best. And so I really enjoyed. I hate pickle though, and so I hate all the pickle stuff. Pickles are gross, and I'm sorry, not sorry. So, what about you, Don? Any thoughts?
No, I'm excited. Beer is such an old beverage. It's amazing to me, and here we are. I think it's appropriate that we're recording this episode during Craft Brewers Conference because we walk the trade room floor, we go to seminars, and there's always something new and exciting. And I think that's amazing. So everybody, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow us on social media at allaboutbeer. And please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to support this show and others. If you have questions for the experts, please email podcast@allaboutbeer.com. That's also the email for feedback, suggestions, or to inquire about supporting this show through advertising. And Em,
Yes.
how do people get a hold of you?
I am Pints and Panels on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and www.pintsandpanels.com is my website. What about you, Don?
I am at the Dawn of Beer on X, Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram, and on Facebook, I am at the Beer Dawn. And please feel free to drop me an email. I am don@thedawnofbeer.com. And once again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our audience. We love talking about beer. If everybody who listens to this show recommends our show to one other person, we can double our audience. It would be super exciting. This show is produced by All About Beer. Please visit allaboutbeer.com for articles, notes on the show and others, and to connect via the newsletter and social media. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
This episode is sponsored by John I. Haas on their new LupoCore Enhanced T90 hop pellets, engineered for peak sensory performance and ultimate peace of mind. Designed for brewers of all sizes, LupoCore delivers consistent sensory outcomes, reliable brewhouse performance, and scalable application across production volumes. Using Sensory Plus selected hops and Haas's advanced pellet processing technology, LupoCore elevates hop expression while reducing brew process loss, all without requiring brewers to change their process. Contact your Haas Sales Representative or visit lupohops.com to learn more.
Today's episode is brought to you by stompstickers.com, trusted by thousands of breweries across the country. They've been printing for over 30 years, and they know beer branding inside and out. Whether you need beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, or more, they've got the expertise you need, all backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Try your first run with stompstickers.com and get 15% off with code TRY15. That's TRY15 by visiting stompstickers.com. You're paying too much to process your invoices. Look, it's not your fault. It's just because you're not using PaySmart yet. Most breweries are stuck with platforms designed for general small businesses, not the craft industry. That's why PaySmart was built. It's the new payment solution that is fully integrated into leading brewery software like Ecos and Ollie. That means less time chasing payments, fewer workarounds, and more money saved. Want to see how much you can save? Head over to save.withpaysmart.com to learn more and to claim an incredible launch offer. That's save.withpaysmart.com.
If you were at CBC in Philadelphia, hopefully you stopped by the Senos booth or ran into them at their sponsored events around Philly. For everyone who missed it, Senos announced their latest hardware innovations. Senos is the world's first complete solution for data-driven fermentation management. Real-time, predictive insights directly from your tanks, within reach for every brewery. Catch issues early, save batches, and grow your margins. Brew smarter at senos.com. That's SENNOS.com.